Hey everyone, my name's James. I'm a product manager here at Snowplow. Today I'm going to walk through why AI for marketing is only as good as the data foundation that sits beneath it. So quick introduction to who Snowplow is. Snowplow is the customer context layer. So we work as the kind of unified foundation for collecting behavioral events that allow you to take those behavioral analytics events, use them for downstream analytics, operationalize that data, or use it to power agentic use cases or real-time personalization. So think about like page views of custom events on your digital platforms such as your apps and your websites. But what I want to talk about today is how the web has changed. So there's a report from Cloudflare that states that over 50% of web traffic now is actually driven by agents and bots, and actually how humans are interacting with the web is changing as well. So McKinsey's reporting that 750 billion is going to start going through AI search rather than traditional search channels. I don't think I need to emphasize it anymore, but we all know that AI and agents is really starting to take over the web. But what can we do about this? This is really kind of a disaster for marketing when we think about how do we interact, and if we're starting to do conversion rate optimization or measuring marketing attribution, and we're starting to do these reports and measuring that off data which is inaccurate, or we've got these humans and bots traffic that have been intertwined. How do we start to separate out that traffic so we can start to understand the true metrics and start to measure on what we can actually act upon? So we've got a number of different challenges that I think Snowplow is really well positioned to help with. We can help you untangle your users and agents, your users from actual agents and bots when it comes to your analytics. We can help you surface your AI hidden traffic. And then we can also start to get ready for the future of agentic sessions, which interact between sessions that might transpose between humans to agents and then back to humans. And I'll walk through some examples of how we're going to walk through this as well. So if we walk through an example, and this is, I'll talk to what this is. So this is just a chart over time and showing page views. So if you think of a typical analytics report that you might be looking into, and you might see quite a positive trend here, seeing this trend kind of head upwards. But if we scratch below the surface and see that actually, if we split this into human and bots, the human traffic has actually been relatively static on this website most of the time. Whereas a lot of the rise in this web traffic was actually due to bots increasing on our site. This is actually real data from our documentation site, and we're actually seeing more and more of this bot traffic starting to increase. So if we take a step back, how is Snowplow helping with this? So Snowplow is collecting this data from JavaScript trackers on our demo website that we have at the moment. But we help you collect those page view events or custom events and their behavioral data across your different platforms. We then collect that data in our Snowplow pipeline, where we validate that data to make sure it's correct and according to certain schemas. And then we enrich that data, and we can add additional context to that information as it flows through your pipeline before it reaches Snowflake in a matter of seconds. So back to the bots. How are we detecting those bots? There's a number of different ways. We've got our JavaScript tracker that works on your client side, on your website, or on your apps that starts to understand exactly how these bots are differing from your human traffic. There's also the network request. When that reaches our collector, how do we understand how that traffic, the profile of that traffic differs to typical traffic, typical humans? And we summarize that all up into an enrichment that we can start to pull from downstream. But there's another piece of that. So if we think about that one piece, and that might be how it muddies some of the waters of your typical reporting that you're looking at today. But there's another piece, which is the server-side tracking, which helps you understand all the hidden AI traffic. So if you're thinking about a user that's on ChatGPT today or on Claude, they're asking questions, and you know those sites are already going to your websites and starting to scrape that information. But how do you measure that? How do you understand how those AI agents are actually interacting with your websites today? So Snowplow is really well positioned for this. We have our server-side tracking that allows you to ingest server-side logs and process that data alongside your typical client-side tracking information. So if we go back to that data set that we had before, there's a huge amount more page views that we couldn't see before just looking at our client-side tracking. Now with server-side tracking, you can see there's a huge amount. I'm going to take out the long tail of like miscellaneous bots and things and focus on the kind of more interesting piece. So these are our human ones from before. And here is our bot traffic that we could see from our client-side tracking. But I think what's really interesting to see is these other page views that we have in there. We can see the AI training page views. That's Anthropic, OpenAI, and Google scraping your website and use that content to train. We can also see who's searching through these AI tools and these AI tools scraping onto your website, and then who's retrieving it as well. So if you go to ask Claude tell me some information about Snowplow, it's going to come up and show in some of these reports on the search, the retrieval, and the training. We can also start to split the traffic out and see the different model providers as well. So we can see that OpenAI has been very spiky with how they're starting to scrape our content. And you can see some of the other providers are being a bit more consistent. Where I think this really plays into marketing is now you're going to want to start to build these AI referral charts. So you can start to understand who's scraping our content, who's then retrieving that content, and are they actually driving referrals to our website? Or are they just using that content and surfacing it other ways? You can see, unfortunately here, you can see we're getting a lot of training and referral, training and retrieval content, but we're not getting a whole bunch of referrals at the end of the day. The last thing I do want to quickly talk about as well is that not all sessions that we see before, not all sessions are going to be strictly human sessions now on. We're starting to see a switch from humans to agents back to human sessions. With tools like this, which is what Claude has in the browser, or what we're calling agentic browser. So you might have a human that goes and say, please go to my website, summarize all the information across all these different pages, and present a report back on that information. Now, this might be quite devastating if your business requires interacting with humans and making sure that humans are actually looking at your content. Think about media and publishing that are selling advertisements on that content, making sure that people are actually seeing and engaging with that content. So what can we do about this? Snowplow in real time can start to kind of build behavioral profiles on that data. We can start to understand that these agents aren't interacting with your website the same way that humans are. They've got different ways that they're moving their mouse around, they're clicking around that content, they're not engaging in those same ways. And we can create scores that you can use to tailor and alter your content. Think about almost real-time personalization, deciding if someone's a bot or a human that's on your website. And you can start to tailor that process and how you can engage with that. You can either do that in real time or have that data go into Snowflake and you can start to report on it just to understand how people are engaging with that content. So what changes now that you can start to understand all this? Well, now you can start to build attribution reports where you can start to split out that content. You can split out your humans from the bots and really understand what you can impact from what the process you can do when you can change your website. You can start to optimize your conversion rates in a way for humans, and you can separate out that bot content. And think about audience measurement, where you can actually figure out how many human eyeballs are getting onto your content versus all the bot traffic that might be appearing. So again, in summary, Snowplow can help with untangling those users from agents and bots. It can surface that hidden AI traffic, and it can start to get ready for the agentic browsers, which are mixing human agents across your websites. Thanks, everyone. I hope you listen.